This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, we're here at Galago Pan. There's a promise of many things on Juma this morning, so jump on board for your live safari. Everyone, I said to you that it is a bit exciting this morning. There's a promise of many things today because we had lions last night on a quarantine, and then we had some leopard tracks. It sounds awesome. Hopefully there'll be a lot to find this morning on Juma. My name is TRISHALA and I've got Theo on camera this morning at Juma. Look at that thumb. Nice, right? It's 7 degrees Celsius, so 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And we are hoping that we can catch up with those animals. As you can see at Galago Pan, not much happening. But we did have 5 lionesses on quarantine last night. And Steve and I were having a look. I came to look at Galago Pan area. He's gone on via tele-access and he's got some tracks as well. So that sounds awesome. As for Columba yesterday afternoon, we didn't see tracks of her heading out, so maybe we could find her this morning as well, which would be awesome. So if you have any questions or comments, use the hashtag WildEarth to chat to us. You can use the YouTube chat stream as well, and of course, all our kiddies, you can use kids' questions at wildearth.tv, and let's see what we can find.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the dawn. Welcome to the morning in Juma, where we have found a herd of elephants. And we have found myself, Steve FAULCONBRIDGE, and I'm joined, everybody, are you ready for it? Craig Zammit on camera. He is back, and we are very excited to have Craigie with us. Thanks, Craig, for being here. Questions and comments, everybody, through to hashtag WildEarth. Throw them in on the YouTube chat stream, on Twitch, and if there are any kids out there, please, parents, send through those questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, everybody, we exited camp and we found tracks of a few lionesses. These elephants have obviously gotten in the way of our tracking, but that's okay. I've got tracks of at least 3 lionesses still on the floor. Obviously, that's where the tracks are normally, on the floor. And they are heading directly sort of northwest now along this road called Power Lines. And we're going to follow. If they've gone into Simbambili Arathusa, well, we can go over to Simbambili side. Are you ready? Tracks are just here on the floor. You're not going to be able to see them at the moment. Maybe we'll move over, but you might be able to see the tracks. But it's debatable at this time of day. Just on the ground over here somewhere. There we go. Right there. There's 1. And 2. You can see the direction of the tracks is forward. So we're going to spend a few more moments with these elephants and then get on with our tracking.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari. My name is Eric and behind camera is Owen as usual. We have just decided to stop and enjoy the sunrise. I mean, we have been so lucky that we've got such a beautiful view here. We've got a wonderful marula tree that's silhouetted up ahead, and we're just basically waiting for the sun to rise. And so we've got these beautiful colors of the winter coming through, that nice deep orange color. You can basically see the sun is just about to pop out on the right hand side of that tree, and we did have an impala in shot, but it seems like it might have moved off. But basically, if you watched us this yesterday afternoon, right at the end of show, we managed to see quite a few hyenas that were calling around a lot. And they were being very, very active, and I suspected that there could be some sort of den site close by here. So I've decided to come back into that area this morning. We've seen lots and lots of hyena tracks, which means that they have been moving up and down all over the show, but we haven't quite seen any hyenas themselves yet. And so we'll check 1 or 2 more roads. I might quickly go for a short little walk in the bushes to see if I can find a nice pathway where the tracks are coming in and out, just to see what happens. Then we might end up going towards a nice big waterhole, see what's around there, before we start making our way back down towards the riverbed of the Timbavati this morning. It's just one of those things. I think it's a winter thing where the sun provides such beautiful color, but then if you look in the complete opposite direction, if we go to the west and look essentially where the moon is rising, you get also these beautiful colors, and it's not really the oranges and the yellows, it's more, I guess, purpley pink colors, nice blues as well. So Owen and I are going to get cracking with the morning. Nothing really interesting going on that we can hear, so I think we'll start driving into that area where we saw the hyenas.
We've got something interesting here. There's a couple of, well, 3 lovely hippos that have come and joined us at Leopard Dam. Now, we don't usually see hippos in this dam, so it must be getting very dry elsewhere. It's wonderful to have them here joining us on our morning safari. Welcome, everyone. I am Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Gerrit, and you are joining us here at Pridelands Eco Training Conservancy. And what a wonderful morning it is. Cold, crisp, sun's about to rise. Hippos have joined us. We could hear them all the way from the camp. We were very excited this morning. We raced over here to see what was going on. And yes, we found these 3 hippos. Don't know what the story is. We'll slowly unravel the mysteries. We saw their tracks. They must have come from a very far distance away. There's no other water holes anywhere near here, so it's quite interesting. But just a wonderful morning. Also heard lions in the distance, leopards calling. Full of opportunities. But as you see, these hippos are settled now. They were splashing around a little bit when we first arrived. I suppose they're very excited having found this big, beautiful waterhole. This is Leopard Dam. I'm sure you've all seen all those elephants coming down and swimming in this waterhole. Haven't seen too many elephants here for a while now, but the hippos have taken up residence. I'm hoping that they stick around for some time. I mean, like I said, there's not much other water in this whole area, so having the hippos here is quite a delight. This one is practicing holding its breath. They can hold their breath for quite a long time, 4 or 5 minutes at a time if they want to. Normally just 10, 15 seconds. They breathe like normal. Heads pop up, go down. Must be very, very cold. This waterhole is fairly deep, as you see there. Just their heads are exposed. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of water, so it probably is very, very cold. Luckily, hippos have a thick layer under their skin, which keeps them nice and insulated and warm. These 2 actually look like they're about to fall asleep. I'm not sure what the dynamic is here. The one behind in this picture is much larger than the one in front. It could be a male with a couple of females, because one of them looks quite small. Or it could be 3 young males that have been kicked out of another larger waterhole and have been walking around nomadically looking for their own little patch. They're very territorial hippos. They will fight to chase away any other males that are in their waterhole. So this is interesting. We'll slowly watch them and see what else they do this morning. Maybe they get a bit more active. That'll be cool. Sleepy hippos. It is a Sunday morning after all. I wonder, they have a very, very interesting discuss in a second. David is asking whether hippos can smell underwater. Oh, David, they can't smell underwater. It's very interesting. I just talked about their body shape. So you'll notice that their nostrils, the eyes, and the ears are all at the very tip of their skull, at the very top end of the skull, so that they can submerge themselves almost completely with just their eyes and ears and nose exposed. When they go underwater, they actually seal their nose. Their nostrils close up, and they also sort of close their eyes. They've got they have a membrane on their eyes, but the nose is closed when it's underwater, so they cannot smell underwater. They have a great sense of smell. They do mark their territories around the water holes with dung, and so they'll definitely be able to smell that if any other hippos turned up. Actually, you can actually see it. As this hippo raises its head up, you see it blows out air, like that, and then as it puts its head up, just the nostrils close up, just as it goes under. So David, no. Smell underwater. They can't breathe underwater either, but they certainly can't smell underwater. It's always funny when they lift their head out of the water the first time, they flick their little ears. They've got tiny ears compared to the rest of their body. So hearing is not one of their main senses. Definitely their sense of smell, their main sense. We're going to watch these hippos as the sun just crests over the horizon and listen what else is around.
Just to cover me from
Welcome back, everybody. We have stayed with our elephants to show you the morning sunrise, and I'm just going to keep quiet for a moment, allow you to soak it all in. Beautiful morning to all of you. A wonderful sunrise, elephants and tracks of the lions got to this point. Buffalo dung, lions have gone north. Rexon's on the other side there, we've told him about it and he's picked up their tracks and heading north, so we're going to go help him. Keen? Yeah, Craig's keen. I'm keen. Let's go track some lions, everybody. Hope that was a nice start to the morning. We love to show you the sunrise. We love it when all of you are able to join us in greeting the dawn. Elephants all over the place here. 3 or 4 lionesses, it seems. Doesn't mean that the rest of the pride's not hanging around. Let's go see if we can find them. Gloves on. It's a bit cold when you move.
So this giraffe has just stumbled into our sunrise, making it very, very picturesque, especially because it's the sunlight at this angle is just providing this beautiful golden rim around the giraffe. So we're getting some very, very cool shots, and Owen has been directing me and placing me in the spots that he wants, and he's having a lot of fun playing around with this lighting this morning. And these giraffe, I mean, we haven't moved too far from when we were first with you. And we've just got this one giraffe who's now walking out into the open, but behind her there are quite a few more. I've counted 4. Look, even in this light you can see, if you look closely at her nose, and when she exhales you'll be able to see the condensation and that little mist cloud that comes out. And just look at all of the hair around her chin. See, the sunlight is just showing. Oh, and there's some saliva. Jeepers. That is a long string of saliva. It's going all the way down to the ground. Let's see. What is she going to do? Watch her carefully. Oh. I'm fairly certain there must have been something on the ground over there. I mean, sometimes they might just lick the ground, especially if it's very salty soils. But a lot of the time they'll bend down and pick up a bone to chew. And that will basically just get as many of the minerals that they lack in their diet in as possible. So let's see, where are the others? There's one more walking, following her. And then it also out in the open at the moment. So it's really cool, especially, I mean, if you consider a giraffe, it's a herbivore. It really likes moving and browsing in these dense thickets for most of the time. So to see them out in the open and watch how they walk unobstructed by bushes in front of it is really cool. And just the way that they walk is quite funny, how both legs, right legs, left legs move at the same time. Usually it will be one left, one right for most other mammals. I think it's going to be a really warm day today. It feels like it's warming up very quickly. And there's a youngster that's just about to come out further to the left of where the females came out. So there's a smaller one that's just about to pop its head out, and I think it's one of the youngsters of the 2 adults that we've just seen. Let's see if we can see it. There's just going to be a little obstruction as we're wiping the lens off from the condensation this morning. And where is that? Oh, she's feeding in the same tree that its mother was. So 4 giraffes walking out in the open with the sunrise in the background is definitely not the worst way to begin the morning. And just see how even the fluorescence of the grasses below it is getting caught by this beautiful morning glow. We even started the morning off with a shooting star. We saw one out of the corner of our eyes. It was really bright. It was actually towards the east, so the sky had already started to lighten up, and we just saw this flash as the shooting star came across our field of view. It was really cool to see. See some of the birds that look like a hornbill that might have been leaving its roosting site. So Sassy Cassie giraffe will tend to mostly chew bones to get some minerals that they lack in their diet. And so things like phosphates and calcium are probably some of the minerals that they're most after. It's not necessarily to clean their teeth. It's more for the minerals. And so, I mean, different animals have got different ways of getting minerals into their system that they lack. I mentioned sometimes they will lick the soil, sometimes they chew on bone, sometimes, especially if it's a youngster like this, and some antelope species will actually feed on the feces of the mother to get some of the bacteria into their stomach that they might lack as a youngster. And so those bacteria can start growing in its own digestive system and help it digest as it gets older. See, so it's not the smallest of youngsters. it's quite tall. I mean, it must be about 2.5, 3 meters tall already, so probably over a year old already. It's almost like it's just noticed us now. So as this giraffe disappears into the bushes, I think we are going to continue on our game drive. So I'm going to go and see if we can see any sign of those hyenas from last night.
Wonderful to see giraffe in the early morning. We are really being hindered by traffic jams on this Sunday morning. So it seems like it is the elephant convention day. We've all come together. This is the third herd of elephants we've now encountered. Look at the little cutie on the right there, Craig. Look at him. Oh. Now everybody, I often talk about this and understanding elephant behavior. Look, the little one on the left is going to come push him around now. Elephant behavior. If you come to a herd and you're driving in your own self-drive car in the Kruger Park or something like that, and you find a herd like this spread out and the youngsters in the open, switch off your car and just enjoy. There's no negative behavior here. If the animals didn't like you, you would not see the babies. It's a very good tip. Elephants are the one animal that many people who drive in the parks are very uncertain of. They're very big, and they can squash you if they want to. They're not really trying to squash you, but if you don't understand the nuances with regards to what it is that they're telling you, you're going to find yourself in a whole lot of trouble. They're feeding, they're spread out, they haven't made any noise, they're all slightly moving, and the babies are visible. 100% fine to even get a little bit closer if you seem to be far away. If you're driving along the road and you come to them and they're on the side of the road like this, just switch off. They might even walk all around you. They're not going to be calm and then suddenly walk up to you and start pushing you around. It doesn't work like that. Their reaction will happen the moment they hear you, the moment they see you, if there's going to be a reaction. It's important to know that. Very relaxed. Now it sounds like TRISHALA is going to be lucky. I don't know if she's there yet, but the tracks of lions we're following is 3, possibly 4 lionesses, and I think 5 lionesses with cubs have been picked up on cheetah cutline. Trish is nearly there. And it sounds like the rest of the Nkuhuma pride, which means that we were talking the other day about pride dynamics and about feeding. And it's possible that the adults are with the cubs, and or we'll have to see when we find them. And some of the others have gone off feeding, because it gets quite messy when you've got all these cubs trying to feed. You just want to go have an impala all to yourself, you know what I mean? Just a quiet impala on your own or with your 2 close mates. Leave the kids with the auntie for a night or 2. Everybody needs a night away. A night away with the girls, hey Craigie? Oh, Bryce, at the moment, I'm not sure on the exact number, but I think it's over 20,000. I can find out for you what the exact number is, or maybe one of you viewers out there has been in touch with the latest sightings report or animal count in the Kruger, but it is high. It's a big number, a very, very big number. And there are lots on Djuma at the moment, which is great. We do find the elephants moving in here in the winter months, because what this whole area, this granitic soil area, is regarded as is a very good winter grazing. So there's grass left here. If there's been rain, there's grass left here that's not the most nutrient rich, but that provides nutrients in a time when all the other areas have been depleted So after the rains, you'll often find many of the animals moving over to the nutrient-rich soils, the basalt soils on the eastern side of the Kruger, where the vegetation is sweet and the grass is very tasty. And then as the winter sort of drags on a bit, many of them move across to these western properties where there's adequate water and there's also grazing that hasn't yet been accessed. And so you can see the grazing that's happening right now, and they're pulling up the grass so as to get the roots. Ellie, you want to know if elephants give birth to twins? And I think it's been recorded. I've never personally seen it, but it is a question I've been asked before, and it is something that has happened. I think many animals have the potential to have twins, but what a process that would be, having to look after two little ones. I've never seen it, but I believe it is possible, as with many animals that do double fertilization. But probably the babies would come out even smaller than they do. But, oh my word, twin elephants. I don't think there's anything cuter. You agree, Craig? Yeah. Okay, so we talk about fire all the time. And fire, you see this vegetation, this grass here. Leave this another season and it doesn't get eaten, and it will start to fall over itself. It will start to provide shade. It will start to actually cover the grass. And that leads to what we call moribund. Now, moribund is quite important because, well, should I say there's a negative impact of moribund because grass doesn't grow if it's shaded. Some grasses can, but many grasses will actually die. And if you want to test this experiment and you've got some lovely green lawn outside, go and take a carpet or blanket or cardboard or whatever you want to and go and lay it out on that piece of grass and leave it for a few weeks. See what happens. It's going to die. And if it dies, well, it dies. And so that's what the moribund does. It shades the grass out. And so many animals actually facilitate the opening up of that grass through their feeding. Oh, Craigie, that little one at the back's coming through. That little baby. Here we go. And so the moribund is removed by grazing. That's why zebras and white rhino are so important. White rhino hippo are very important mega herbivores because they just non-selectively feed on everything that is available. Your smaller animals, including wildebeest and impala, are very selective. They're looking for just the good stuff in amongst the rubbish. And elephants can feed on the entire grass pasture. So they'll actually rip the whole grass part up. The grasses, in adaptation to fire, have absorbed all the nutrients into the ground, into the roots, and the elephants are accessing that. And it's why we call fire such an important ecological driver out in these systems. It is referred to as being a non-selective grazer because it'll burn all the grass. Selective grazers, steenbok, the wildebeest, impala, are very concentrated. They will feed on only the beautiful little parts, whereas fire is non-selective. It just burns. Some things it doesn't burn due to it's unable to get to it, but when it burns, it is not at all concerned with what fuel it's got. It just burns it. And so fire, very important for removing that dead layer and then allowing the green grass underneath, now free of shade and material on top of it, to flush and come out beautifully for the next season. You see how she uses her foot to help get the roots, and then she hits it off. Oh, you didn't, sorry, I was watching her. They use their foot and then they hit it to get all the sand off. No one likes sand in their food. So we're low down in the landscape. You can tell by all the quarries here. So all of this vegetation has got nice nutrients because of the slope. And that is what they're accessing. Carla B, you want to know how tall elephants are when they're born? Now, I can't give you an exact height at the moment, but if you look at this female on the left here, the baby fits directly underneath her belly. Oh, there's a little one there. It's already probably close to a year old, that one, maybe more than a year now. But this little mama on the left here, a baby fits underneath her belly without touching when it's born. So it's about a foot and a half, I think. I've never actually measured a baby elephant. They always look so much smaller than you think. But they can weigh over 100 kilograms. So it's 200 pounds at birth. So there's a lot of muscle and a lot of weight and bone in the elephant when it's born. But it's very small. But next to mum, it looks even smaller than it actually is. I'm sure there's a measurement somewhere. I'm sorry I don't have that number for you now. All I know is when I see them, it's just so cute. Yeah, that one's in its first year. Probably not even 8 months. 6 months, probably born in January time. It's still very fresh. You'll see how the ears are still plastered back and the trunk is really not knowing what to do. How do I do what you're doing with the grass there, Mum? I can move my trunk to my mouth, but I'm not quite sure how to do the whole grabby thing. It's okay, because it'll feed on milk for the majority of the first couple of years, as it slowly learns how to use that appendage. Non-stop feeding machines. We're going to move on from elephants soon and go over and give Rex a hand, seeing if we can find where those other lionesses have gotten to.
Look at what we've managed to find here. Now, this is quite odd because they're completely on the eastern side. In fact, just over our eastern boundary. They're actually on Tortured, but we can see them from our eastern boundary called Cheetah Cut Line. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lionesses and many cubs. Just gorgeous. So I wonder if the tracks that Steve found were these guys coming all the way here. Because last night at about 9, I heard that they had a kill on quarantine. Something very small that they were chomping on. Doing some, oh lovely, some morning bonding and grooming. Now that's the lioness that was mating yesterday morning, the one that's with the really pink nose. That one was the oldest in Kahuma female, sometimes known as Nana. That's her daughter. She was the one we found mating yesterday with two Avokas. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubs. Oh, I see Rich Nose's cub having a bit of a play across on the other end. So 7. they go. What an amazing way to start off the morning. So they were just lying up in the east. I must also tell you that tracks for Thandi and her cub, so that's awesome. We may not see them, but we know that that little cub is doing well. Tracks for both of them were seen around Central yesterday evening. Ah, look at that. Just a gorgeous. Oh. They all kind of lifted up their heads in the cuddle puddle on this side. Wonder what they've heard. Lynette, you'd like to know what the lifespan of a lion is? A lioness has a greater longevity, about 12 to 15 years. Male lion is more around 10 years old. And that's because of the fact that males are more susceptible to getting injured and dying, in takeovers, in claiming territory, and things like that. Male lions have a tough life, a really tough life. And the little boys in this group it'll be a difficult time as they grow, but of course we wish all the best for them. Males will leave the pride and form coalitions, while the females will remain in their pride. Sometimes I look at Ridge-Nose's two boys and I think, I really wish all the best for them because they have a tough road ahead. It's not easy being, especially a male lion. So much competition. Look at this grooming. That is my game drive radio going on and on and on, because everyone is very excited that the Inkahumas are here. I must say, the last time that I saw these guys, they looked a little bit more patchy with mange, and they look quite good, I think. I remember it was Purple Eyes. I think it was Purple Eyes. Little cub was looking quite bad at one point, but I haven't seen that cub here yet. They're moving kind of spaced out quite a bit, so we will keep an eye out for that cub. But so far our cub count is 7. Let's see if we can find the others.
A very good morning to everyone from all over the world watching this morning. My name is Clive, and we are on and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve And behind the camera today we have Marcel. And the first animals we have come across today are some beautiful zebra. Look at this, in the morning sun, starting to warm everything up here, and it's really beautiful. It brings out those colours through the mane, like sunlight that comes through their mane. Now it's quite a big group of them. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I can. Sorry, 8, 9. Oh. So it's quite a big group here, and what this will be is one male. One of these somewhere here will be a male, and his harem of females, his group of females. No little youngsters in this group like TRISHALA's lions she just had. I hear there were quite a few cubs in that pride, but I don't see any young zebras in this one. You might be able to see that it's actually quite windy here at the moment as well, which is strange for early in the morning like this. Normally the early mornings are relatively calm, but it's quite an icy little breeze we've got blowing over us here. Momo, that is a very good question, and one that we actually get asked all the time by guests that come here, or even friends sometimes. And there's no real answer. They have both black and white stripes, although their skin underneath is actually black. So I guess you could say black with white stripes. That's probably the best answer you could have. But you'll see some of them, especially there's one in the middle there that's very dark in colour. Now what that one would have been doing is actually rolling around in the sand. So he's almost got like a stained reddish brown colour from the sand. And it's quite a good, or it's something that zebras do all the time, is roll around in the dust, and that helps to just get rid of parasites and things like that. But you'll see he's like almost a completely different colour. H. Worky, you're asking if these zebra stripes will go grey with age. And no, up until a zebra is old, they stay black and white. If you look at the one kind of in the middle closest to us, that's quite a young one, and it's actually still fluffy. Might be able to tell. And when they're very young, they're very fluffy. And then they slowly lose that like extra fur, and then it's a very fine layer of hair after that. But that one is kind of in between there. It's still got a bit of fluff, but not as much. That's the only change that happens from that very fluffy youngster into an adult with less hair. But they stay black and white the entire time. Well, there's one very interested in us, having a good look at us. Look at those beautiful shapes and patterns on the front of that zebra's face. That is absolutely incredible. Coming a bit closer. Very, very alert. Look at that. Those ears pinned towards us here. Probably can hear me talking. And you'll see how their eyes are right on the side of their head, and it gives them a really good opportunity to be able to see straight forwards, as well as being able to see all around them. Very clever little adaptation to keep them safe. Butterfly, when a zebra is born, it actually comes out already with fur on and stripes already. Just like that other youngster that's in this group, they're quite a lot more fluffy than the adults. Got a lot of like excess hair, but they still come out black and white, which is pretty amazing. That one closest to us is very, very interested in us. I love how on the picture that you're seeing right now, that just one half of his face is lit up by the sun, and the other half is black. And that little mohawk of hair between the ears. Well, what a beautiful scene this is. Our plan for the morning, though, is to try and find a pride of lions, Biola Pride in particular. We haven't seen them in the last few days, so we are on a mission this morning, and that's what I'm going to be doing. But in the meantime, we'll let you carry on with your safari.
So we found a gorgeous journey of giraffes feeding here on impala clearings. Amazing to see giraffes out in the open. I think they're here to warm up in this beautiful sunshine. But there's also a lot of Vechelia bushes here. These used to be known as acacias. It's one of the giraffes' favorite foods. These are called Vechelia. There's young giraffes as well. 2 young giraffes also feeding here. Watch out, his mouth's not so tough yet, or I think it's a he, so it's a young one. You can't tell, but the horns or the ossicones on top of its head are fluffy because it's young, but also very thick. So I think that might be a young male, but you must be careful because their mouths are not as tough as the mothers, as the older giraffes. They still have to be very wary of these sharp thorns, but you can see how gingerly it's nipping at these branches. It's amazing how that thin head and mouth can just get right in amongst those thorns and clip away at those green shoots. It's actually interesting. I've not seen giraffes on this clearing before, but it's wonderful and open. So it's beautiful. So these giraffes are going to stay feeding here. There's plenty of bushes, but they've been slowly moving downwind to get maybe closer to the thickets later when it gets hotter.
Well, our Nkuhumas are starting to move further east into Torchwood. And that's not too great for us, but at least we got to see them today, which is awesome. And cub count is at 8. And the little one I was thinking about was actually Chelly's cub. The one that was quite stricken with mange, and I did see it as well. So I think we're doing well, everyone. We are. I saw purple eyes, saw amber eyes. Very, very nice. They look super, super peaceful in that patch of sun. And I love the wintry colors of the bush at the moment. So we have ridge noses, 2 males. Cheryl, you'd like to know what the gestation period is for a lioness. The gestation period for a lioness is about 3 months, or just over 3 months. Almost had a really close encounter with the vehicle there. Did you hear? Well, that's good for us because I actually thought I would need to move out. But that vehicle has moved, so we can stay a little longer, or at least until they move further east. Ooh, close call. Oh, there's amber eyes. Ah, gestation periods, that's what we were talking about. Don't you love it when you draw a blank sometimes? What word was I just talking about? We were talking about the gestation period of the lions. We said about 3 months. A little bit longer than a hyena. Say the hyena is usually about 90 to 100 days. And then a lion is about... They're making some really soft noises, some little growls. How was that? Ooh, Bex, that's a really interesting question. Really, really interesting question. Could a female become sterile if the pride becomes too large? It is not, it is very unlikely. And that's because even though they'd be working together to make sure that their genes collectively are being pushed forward, an individual also cares about their ability to push forward their particular individual genes. And for them to become sterile would basically make them biologically useless, for lack of a more kind term. And the only instance I know of lions becoming sterile, or females particularly, is when you get... Oh, I've just heard some movement that looked like it was coming, or sounded like it was coming towards the pride. The only instance I've read about was when females have manes. That happens sometimes, and they actually are not able to ovulate, which essentially means they can't have children or can't have youngsters, and they are sterile. But I've also read that with treatment, with the correct hormonal treatment, they can start to get a reduction in their manes and things like that. They also will behave like males quite a lot, like they'll start to scent mark and start to call a lot more like males do when they have an overproduction of testosterone. And as soon as that's corrected, then they return to the way that females normally behave. So they call just a little bit less, and of course they don't have a mane. That's the only instance of female lionesses not being able to have young that I have come across, besides some maybe reproductive issue or damage to a uterus or things like that. But that's a really interesting thought, Bex, because, you know, a pride needs to feed all those mouths, which I think is what your thinking is as well. They need to, ooh, somebody's teeth are dripping. They need to feed all these mouths, and it would make more sense if they could just if they could just work on the survival of the precious few that they have. It's a really, really interesting thought. If you have any information on that that's different, please do let me know. Hi Neela, you have a really cool question. You want to know, why do female lions, lionesses, not have manes the way that males do? That's because males have to compete with each other to mate with the females. And they have to have a way to make themselves, or a thing in which they can compete with. So they use that mane as a way of competing. It's like having a nice, beautiful head of hair. If my hair is really, really pretty, maybe you like me better, so you'll have babies with me. But if I have hair that you don't like, then you won't have babies with me. And how thick and dark your hair is, like with a lion, if you have a really nice, thick, dark mane, coming through, then the females will say, oh, you must be very healthy. Because if you're not healthy, you can't grow nice long hair or nice long mane, can you? So you must be very healthy. And you must have good genes. So I would like to have my babies with you. But males don't do that, don't need to do that for females. Or rather, the females don't need to do that for the males. There we go. So they don't need to compete for males. Males compete for them. That is them moving further into Torchwood. Theo, let's have a look here. This one's about to pounce on the other one. Just there, hiding behind the log as Chele's little one comes past. This one has been so playful, trying to pounce all over. Oh, so much happening, so much running. Look at that. Look at that. Well, I'm going to sit a little bit longer and see if we are lucky enough to actually be able to get one more segment with them, because they're moving further east and into Torchwood. But let's just sit tight and see.
Thanks, Trish. Well, Rex and I have been following up on a track of a female leopard. The lion track's got a bit confusing, and the leopard track is so fresh. We reckon she's in the block, so we've been following up, and we found who I think is Heart, the hyena, and she is walking directly towards where we thought this leopard might have been. So just give us a moment to try and sniffing, and this is such promising behavior. Tell me when you got a good view, Craig, and I'll stop the car for a moment. We don't want to lose her. She's walking directly back towards where we had the first female leopard tracks coming in from the north. Just stop there for a moment and give you opportunity to see this hyena. She's got a big bite out of the top of the right ear. I think it's a female. I think it's heart. Maybe all of you can remind me. Obviously, that's not the best visuals. But that behavior of the nose down following is exactly what we are after. She's walking directly towards where Ericsson made a mark in the sand on Aubrey's Road, which is this side. And he looked at the tracks, and Ericsson is an expert. He said these things are steaming. We could probably smell the leopard off of those tracks. So a hyena, most certainly. I would love to have a hyena's nose just for a day. Just for a day. I think it would be overwhelming to have it for more than that. Imagine what food would taste like when you got a scent of a hyena. Well, I suppose, does the smell influence the taste? Because I've seen hyena eat things that would turn your tummy over. Now, I was talking about the grass and how densely vegetated it is at the moment. To try and track a leopard through here is nearly impossible. You've got to follow the game path. You've got to then estimate where she might come out on the other side. And if she doesn't come out, then you've got to somehow find a hyena to track her down for you, which is what we've done. There we go. Please tell me, everybody, if there's no spot pattern on this one at the moment, but if you can tell me if that's heart or not. That bite out of the right ear, I think so, but could be anybody really. Okay, Rexon is here with us, so let me just move up. We're going to keep following her through this long grass. Hopefully she takes us directly to Kalamba.
That would be awesome. I'm just looking at this lioness who has a terrible limp, but I cannot tell who it is in that thicket. Terrible, terrible limp. Can't even put weight on that back right foot at all. Look at that. Oh, there we go, a bit more weight. Yeah, sometimes they just sit awkwardly for a long period, and in much the same way as we would sleep awkwardly and get, a bit of a tight neck or back or something like that. But that did look a little worse than what you would have. It was a simple injury, like an awkward lie down. Well, that's it, folks. Off they go. Those are the last two stragglers. They have now into Torchwood. Completely out of our view. Well, I think it was very lucky that we managed to get her where we did and actually be able to see them, at least for a little bit. Yeah, a few segments with them was nice, and we saw all of the cubs, which is awesome, and they all look a little better than they did the last time I saw them on Little Gallery when they had the mange. Or, well, they still have mange, but the thing is that they don't have too much of it. Alright, let's head out and see what we can find towards Cheetah Cutline Junction Central. Whew. Smells like lion. Joe, you'd like to know why it's called Pride? I have no idea why it's called a Pride. Perhaps because they feel proud, or people perceived them, as in lions, to be proud, so they called it a pride. A lion is a symbol of pride and loyalty and strength. So perhaps that's why they call him a pride. I wonder if peacocks are a pride of peacocks. That would be funny and interesting. But yeah, I would think it's a result of the way people felt that lions are, or what they think lions feel like, that being proud. I think it's a really nice collective term. Also a great symbol of courage, and it's been used throughout the ancient world. And bravery, of course, how could I forget that? So it sounds like the males are somewhere around here. The invokers. So maybe we'll try and have a look at them too. But considering that the rest of the pride has moved into torture, it's only a matter of time until they also decide to move. Okay. Alright, let's go see if we can find them. I'll get you right back when we do.
Good morning from another spectacularly stunning day out here at Tswalu Kalahari. It is one of the most fabulous mornings we've had in a long time. The temperatures are just rising day by day. So I don't want to say we're going into summer, but we're getting there. And it is fantastic having you as Jean-Andre and myself on this beautiful morning out here. I'm just loving the light on the grasses, the haze over the mountains as the sun's just risen there. It is just a stunning day on so many different levels, and it's brilliant having you with us. We're at the meerkat burrows. We decided to come down here because we missed them yesterday, through no fault of our own. It's just those jackals. That sighting was brilliant. It was superlative, so I'm very, very happy. But we are at the meerkat burrows now, and I don't think it's going to be too much longer before they come out. I'm guessing probably another 20 minutes or so, maybe not even. So there's hardly a breath of wind this morning. It's very, very calm, and it's nice and warm as well. So this is actually ideal conditions for them to come out and start foraging. So coming back to what we were chatting about a couple of days ago, I was really concerned about these pups and those massive cold fronts that had come through here, going down to these super, super low temperatures, well below freezing. But I'm now very happy that we've passed that point. I mean, we can still get another cold front, even extending right into September. Sometimes we have these cold snaps. But now it shouldn't be too bad. The one challenge that this group is going to face now with these pups is that the foraging, in theory, will get progressively worse the further we go into the dry season. And the real crunch time out here in the Kalahari is beginning of October to the end of October, when the temperatures are spiking. You can be going into the 40s then, and very often we only get rain beginning of November to mid-November. So that's really going to be the crunch time. So although we're thinking in terms of just cold temperatures, the real push for these guys in terms of foraging conditions is going to be, as these temperatures have spiked, you still haven't got rain. A lot of the life here is going deep, deep, deep down, and there's very little above ground insect life. So
These little guys have still got a long way to go, but I'm very, very optimistic now. Those cold snaps are what kills small things out here, little and compromised animals. So I'm happy that we've passed that point.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Thanks, Dylan, and welcome back to Djuma, where I'm almost certain this is hot, but please, if you can tell me, everybody. She gave us a bit of a... We thought that there was something going on. We thought there was a leopard nearby. We had a look around. We almost heard some crunching, and we couldn't find anything. She's moved off and she's found what looks like an impala skull, which she's now enjoying, an old one. This is old crusty impala skull. Waiting for those IDs, if you can confirm it for me, anybody. Hashtag Wild Earth, or put them in the YouTube chat stream. That right? Yeah, it's got that very nice little bite mark out of the top. This is how hyenas originally formed on the landscapes of the sort of the Asiatic Europe continent, feeding on the remains left over by saber-toothed tigers. They filtered into that niche of feeding on bones, and that's why they designed such a strong jaw. It's to break bones, to access the marrow inside, parts that the saber-tooths were not able to. And so with that niche filled, they remained a scavenger, and then some of them, namely the spotted hyena, became a very, very efficient hunter. Oh, here we go. I've got a bone. I thought it was a skull a moment ago. I don't know anymore. Just going to update Rex, and he's very interested. Rex, it's just feeding on an old bone here. Times are tough, everybody. Hyenas are still able to eke a living out of the environment. The Masai Mara and Kenya Serengeti system, for example, there are carcasses that remain there for a long time. Vultures pick them clean, lions can feed on what they can, and then hyenas can come back at any time when food quality is low and eke a living out of larders of bones all over the landscape. Now we hope she wasn't leading us all the way to the skull. I think she might finish it and find us this leopard. Here we go. That's my girl. Take us to the leopard. You see, she's suddenly got like an idea. I'm going to go that way. I'm just going to hold off a moment and let her go a bit further. You can actually see some nice images. See, the nose is working once again. Yay! Thank you, Chris Rogue. I'm not too bad at these IDs, am I? The females with their ears is the only ones I can remember. Remember with Jamie did that Safari Lives episode? Excuse me while I just enjoy a cup of coffee along the way. I thought she would at least be busy for a few more minutes. Jamie Patterson did that Safari Lives episode on the identification of females. I've been able to remember all the females since then. Well, the Ribbon, Corky, Heart and June. But the males, she never did one, so I've really struggled with them. But that's why we have you wonderful viewers. And tap into your ID kits as well. Zoe, that's a really good question. And there's a couple of reasons, and some of them might just be theories and some might be factual. Zoe wants to know, why are the hips so much lower than the shoulders? Now, Zoe, have you seen a wildebeest and a hartebeest and a tsesebe? They're designed for walking, migrating very long distances. So that back, the hips being lower than the shoulders, enables them to actually walk a very long way without being too taxing on the body. That's a design that they've had, and also they can sort of lope and run at a very steady pace for a very long time. That's one of the ideas when you look at sort of the morphology of other animals, but then with hyenas as well, it means that they have the strength to pick up a carcass that weighs the same weight they do and run with it wherever they want to go. So that's the other reason for them having higher shoulders than hips.
So the meerkats have just popped out. I said, I think 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Anyway, they popped out 10 minutes earlier than I said so. But I wasn't talking about the first one. I was talking about the last meerkat to pop out. Will be in 20 minutes. But you can just see the difference now with this warmer weather. And I think there's going to be some good activity today. Yes, there's tons of rodent tracks all over here as well, which is interesting. These are probably these gerbils and things. And there's no other sign of big predators around here, which is great news for the meerkats. And obviously, Veronica, meerkat habituator, she spotted another African wildcat this morning, much to my joy and dismay at the same time. But that's quite far from here. Well, it's about 1.5 kilometers southeast from where we are now. But it just shows these African wildcats are around. I just need to put in a little bit more effort to actually find them for you. But we will. Have no fear. At some point. So I'll to give you an indication of just how little wind there is, if you can look at the sand. Tasha has asked, do the meerkats store food in their burrows? They don't. They don't store food down the burrows at all. And if you compare it to things that we were seeing yesterday, like that brown hyena, actually at one point dismembered that carcass. He actually took a whole front leg off, which is actually interesting. It's very typical of brown hyena to do that. And they will sometimes, if they have cubs, they will take a leg like that or parts of carcass back to a den site. But otherwise, they'll actually stash those to come back to later. So they'll actually dig a hole and hide it. And normally within a relatively small radius from where the kill is, a couple of 100 meters. So you get a number of different species that will stash food and obviously squirrels, things like that we know. But meerkats won't do that. So they really heavily reliant on prey items that they actually dig up themselves. Or not just dig up, even find on the surface and that. I'm really looking for any sign of armored ground crickets, but I think they now past their prime. Except in my greenhouse at home, there's about 40 million. Lazidep has asked, are meerkats in every burrow here, or are some of these burrows empty? So in the system over here, there's probably about 20 burrows, maybe slightly less than 20 burrows. I can do a bit of a count just now, using all my toes and my fingers. But with this group of there's only 6 adults here. So essentially it's the adults and the sub-adults, but they're all big functional meerkats, so they're adults. There's only 6 over here, and then the 5 pups. But they don't necessarily stay in the same burrows. Normally they'll go down it, but remember, some of these burrows are actually connected underground. Okay, so when we talk about burrows, you get the main burrow system, which encompasses all the different holes, and then the individual burrows are what we're talking about. So where these two meerkats are sitting, it may be connected to the next burrow in front of it or one to the side. We don't know that. We don't know what's going on underground. But so they'll be sleeping in a group together, but they can pop up at different burrows, yeah.
This guy looks like a meerkat today, popping up from that termite mound. But we have two of our evokers here. There's mohawked evoker with his head up, and our blonde evoker is so flat that you can hardly see him. He's actually in frame at the moment, but you can hardly see him. I love these boys. They look so strong and healthy. I know they're limping and all of that, but I think that they're just gorgeous animals. So majestic when he sits there like that. He's been having a couple of tummy issues. He's been eating some grass and also been heaving. Elizabeth, you'd like to know if lions have a scratchy tongue like domestic cats do? They certainly do. Even more scratchy. We call that barbed. They've got a barbed tongue. So imagine barbed wire, where the spines are positioned in a backward fashion. So once they grip on, they're basically pulling the flesh off an animal. So they can actually use that barbed tongue. How beautiful is that? They can use that barbed tongue to literally pull flesh off bones. Oh, good morning, beautiful blonde evoker. You can hear alarm calls behind me, but oh, they're in front. They would be at these lions then. If they're behind me, I thought it would be pure talent to be able to see these evokers and alarm at them. Just stunning. So they're going to move east as well into Torchwood. And they're going to follow the pride, possibly continue mating with that lioness. The one with the gorgeous pink nose. Joelle, you'd like to know what causes a lion to have tummy issues? Well, perhaps they've eaten, it's basically like us, you've eaten something that didn't quite sit well. There he goes again. Or something that's a bit rancid. In the case of lions, it's more possible than it is for us. And they could have just eaten some sort of bacteria that didn't sit well with them. Or basically eaten something that was off. And the way that they deal with that is to have a bit of vegetation, have some grass, and that acts as an emetic, help it throw up. He's been heaving a lot, chewing on some grass and then heaving. pearl-spotted owlet chorus going on. Just gorgeous. These beautiful Avoca boys.
We have come down towards this waterhole to see if there's any activity going on, and surprisingly not too much life is happening. There's a few different bird species that are here, but in terms of mammals, not so much. The only mammal that we can see at the moment is these hippos that are in the water, and they are making use of that log. It seems like there's two of them, so there's that one big one off to the left, and then you can see the one's head poking out in the middle there. And it looks like they might even be resting their chins on that log, so it's a lot easier for them to keep their heads above the water and breathe. And it doesn't seem like they're moving around too much. In the foreground, we've got some crested francolins that are coming down to drink, actually. And they're a bird that you often see on the roads, but you never really quite see them sitting still like they are doing now. So they are one of those common species that I think are often overlooked, and we don't really see them, and we don't look at them in detail a lot. But if you look at just the different colorations on their chest, with brown color overall, but then every little feather and every little pattern will have these little white streakings all down its breast and its chest, and beautiful markings around the face too. And so we'll go from a slightly brownish bird to one with a little bit more color and much smaller, and that's up ahead of us. So you might see the top of my head for a bit, but we'll zoom into it now. And there it is there. Ah, no, typical birds. But if you got to see that flash of yellow, that was a yellow-fronted canary. We maybe should have started on those birds. Anyway, so it's a yellow-fronted canary, also a relatively common bird species that we find, especially around the waterhole. I find this bush from memory, a hippo, if it needs to, can hold its breath for up to about 5 or 6 minutes underwater. They tend to not hold it that long for most of the time. And there's actually 3 hippos there. I only noticed 2. And so most of the time, I mean, if they're moving from one spot to another, they walk on the bottom of the water. And so they sink down and they basically trot along, and then they'll hop up to breathe, and then they'll drop back down again. And so they are capable of holding their breath for very long, but they tend not to if they've got the choice. They like to keep their heads up above the water, and designed in quite a special way. I mean, if you look at their nostrils, their eyes and their ears, they're all at the very, very top of their heads. And so, especially when it's hot, they don't need to expose the back of their backs and their bodies to breathe. They can literally just pop their heads up, take a breath, have a quick listen, look around, and then they can drop back down into the water. They're moving around a little bit more now. See the 3 of them, how the one in the middle is much, much bigger compared to the 2 on either side. So that one looks like the male, and he'll be the dominant one in this area. So this is his territory, and then those females have come in. And obviously he will tolerate them because he's looking and wanting to try and find some mates. This waterhole, I mean, is slowly but surely drying up. The Gumby, hippos and crocodiles tend to tolerate one another, and they'll give each other space. If there's this waterhole, for example, if there were crocodiles in here and we were coming to late winter time where the waterhole was drying up and there was less water for the two species to move around in, then you might find that there'll be some sort of altercation between them. Especially if there's a female with a young calf. That she might feel very vulnerable with that young calf being so small, and then they'll be quite aggressive towards the crocodiles. But I think just because of the sheer size of them, those big powerful jaws, hippos tend to have the upper hand most of the time when it comes to hippos and crocodiles. And so I guess as long as they give each other space, they'll tolerate one another. The hippo saying good morning to us. It's just one of those days where it's just so nice. There is not a drop of wind. So Ziggy, I guess it's pretty much the same when these hippos and crocodiles come around. And this waterhole is big enough for elephants and hippos to move around in without really bothering one another. But because elephants are the bigger being, the hippo will have to move away from the elephants. And so you'll probably find if a herd of elephants came down to drink in between these two logs where the hippos were, the hippos will probably just move off and carry on. Again, if the water is starting to run out and there's very, very limited availability, then you might find that the elephants, because they're wanting to drink, and if they feel that the hippos are stopping them from drinking, then they'll definitely be a lot more aggressive towards the hippos and chase them away. But at this time of year, in a waterhole like this, they'll live happily together. They won't really compete against one another. And that's the nice thing about having such a big waterhole like this. This waterhole, at this time last year, was almost completely dry. Completely dry. And so these animals felt that pressure that we were just talking about. But with all of this rain, it's really helped to fill the water up. We've got it nice and full in December. And so all of these animals are very happy that this waterhole is full and they can come and have a drink, hopefully right throughout winter.
So very, very cool. All the adults have popped out and the pups have just started to emerge as well. So every now and again you'll see one coming up and going down, coming up, going down. So this is exactly the thing that we were waiting for. And my timing is marginally more accurate now in terms of the little ones. So what I'm interested now, Veronique was saying, and remember we missed them yesterday just because we were viewing the other things. Veronique was saying she saw 4 pups yesterday. So remember there were 5. There may still be 5. It's not to say that that other one is definitely missing. But there was one on the previous day, if you recall, there's one that kept lagging behind, even around the burrows over here, and looked a little bit smaller than the others. But anyway, but we know this. This is what happens. It's nature. And let's just see if it actually is still around or not. It's always sad, those kind of things, but it is absolutely natural, the natural way of things, and we won't interfere in any way, and it's important that we maintain that, that kind of, that social distancing from meerkats. Meerkats. I can't agree more with you. They are just such amazing little animals and so charismatic. And I think that's also, any animal is cool. If you go diving in the sea, you see a pufferfish or a clownfish or whatever, or a shark, everyone loves them. It's just great. And people love their birds. So all animals are really cool. But I think there's also been such a thing built up around meerkats, and there's a lot of TV shows that have portrayed them. There's a lot of natural history films or documentaries that have portrayed meerkats. So it is a species that's become very familiar to us. It's sort of now, it's kind of been brought into every household and that. But when you look at them like this, you just understand just how charismatic they really are. I would love to see more of this kind of work, habituation being done on things like banded mongoose, dwarf mongoose. And even your species like yellow mongoose that stay in small family groups as well. I think there's a huge amount of merit in that, because once you start habituating a species, regardless of what it could be, a hedgehog, it could be a fox, it could be anything. Once you start habituating them properly and with no human interference, people can start observing these animals just going about their daily business that they would be doing even if we weren't here. And then people really start understanding them. And if you can understand something, you start caring for it, you start loving it, and that's when change starts happening. So these meerkats, I'm not talking about this group specifically, but meerkats have gone a long way towards engendering in a lot of people an appreciation of the outdoors. So Jill has asked a great question leading on from what we're talking about here. Jill's question was, how can these meerkats allow us to be so close to them? And I know in terms of like lens compression and that kind of stuff, it's always difficult to give an exact idea of just how close we are to the meerkats. I'm now 9 yards from them, and they're super relaxed. And this is a process that we've been going through with our meerkat habituators like Veronique, Rebecca, where they've put in so much effort over many, many, many years, in some cases, with successive generations of meerkat families, to the point where they are this relaxed. This particular group, it had some relaxed individuals, the alpha and one or two others, but then the others weren't relaxed at all. And Jean-Andre and myself and Veronique, we've spent the past 4 weeks every single day, every single morning with this group of meerkats. The past 6 weeks now. With these meerkats, just trying to get them more relaxed around people. So the more time you spend with a species, and like I said, it could be a fox in your backyard in the UK somewhere, or a badger set, or whatever it is. The more time you spend with animals, and the better they get in terms of being habituated towards you. The key thing, that they should never, ever, ever be fed. You should not impact them in any way whatsoever, and that's when you start seeing their real natural behavior coming out while you're still there.
So we've also got some small creatures that are probably sunning themselves just like the meerkats, I suppose, are doing. These are tree squirrels. And they are sitting on a beautiful, huge leadwood tree, just warming up after what was an incredibly cold morning and evening. See, there were 4 earlier, one of them's just moved off, but these 3 are probably a family of squirrels living in this leadwood tree. It's probably got lots of hollows in it, and they're just catching that morning sun. They have to be careful though. We've seen a few birds of prey flying about, and so if they do spot anything, they'll quickly dash into the cover inside this leadwood. But they'll stay on top of that tree as long as possible to catch that morning sun. Remember, they're very small animals, so their bodies can get cold very, very quickly. And if they can't get warm quick enough, they can suffer some serious consequences. So there's loads of them. There's at least 6 squirrels there. That's amazing. So this is probably more than one family. This is probably 2 families of squirrels that are inhabiting this leadwood. It's very close to a drainage line, so there's probably lots of seeds and things that they can eat close by. Look at those fluffy, they're all side on to the sun, trying to get as maximum warmth as possible. In fact, all the animals we've seen this morning, apart from the hippos, have been standing in the sun, trying to be as warm as possible. If you look carefully at their hands, very dexterous little animals, squirrels. I'm sure many of you have squirrels that visit you in your gardens at home, but amazing dexterous hands and feet, allowing them to climb up and down these trees with amazing agility. And of course that long fluffy, bushy tail acting as a counterbalance when they are jumping up and down. And the one at the back seems to be using his tail as a cushion. Oh, sleeping time. I would also be napping in the sun if I were a squirrel. Of course, many places the squirrels use their tail for lots of different things. For example, in the Kalahari, I'm not sure if they are. At Tswalu, they might be ground squirrels, and they often use their tail for shade. So they'll stand somewhere with their tail fanned above their head like an umbrella, keeping them shaded. I'm not sure if I've seen these tree squirrels doing it, but I know the ground squirrels do it. And once they're warmed up, they will start to move around and hop onto the ground looking for nuts and seeds. Many marula nuts, actually, they're clipping up and getting the seeds. Kim, they are cuties. Kim, have you seen squirrels? Do you have squirrels that visit you? Oh, there's a lot of activity. They are very cute, though. Cute and fluffy. They're members of the rodent family, so a lot of people always consider rodents scary or ugly or whatever. But these squirrels are very, very cute, and they, because they live out in the bush, they don't tend to bother people. So people like having squirrels around in their gardens. I know that they often steal the seeds from anyone's bird feeders, which is always frustrating for the birds. But cute nonetheless. The one at the back actually looks like a rock hyrax. Very cute. All right, we're going to watch these squirrels warm up and then move on towards the dam, see what the hippos are up to.
I am also much like a squirrel today. I have warmed up, and I did move towards the dam earlier. But I'm going to have to move out of here in a bit, so this may be our last sighting with our evokers. Or rather, last segment for now. Mohawk has left. He very politely went off to the north to throw up, instead of doing it in front of us, but we heard him very clearly. And our blonde evoker is left. He seems to frequent bringing up the rear. Oh yes, thank you, we see your face. Gorgeous, gorgeous boy.
Very sensitive being. I'm annoyed.
Always suspicious. So when I'm with you guys and I turn down my game drive radio, and all of a sudden everyone's just suddenly pulled out of here. Now I'm turning on my game drive radio and I heard the word sensitive. I'm sure Steve will get the scoop on what's been happening.
Get that. Thanks, Trish. That's great.
It's like something's happening around me and I don't know what it is.
We are leaving the locomotives. There's 2 vehicles up now.
Hi, Leslie. You'd like to know how long lions will mate for? Not very long indeed. It's just about 2 to 5 days. Consistent mating. And a couple times in a day. And each bout lasting a couple seconds. Nothing fancy at all. Okay. So everyone was just moving around, not leaving the party and going somewhere else. Yeah, so it's very short bouts of mating. And they have to do it all day long for at least like 3 days, because it's the actual act of mating that stimulates the female to ovulate. So, unlike us, they don't have a cycle where they ovulate every month. And there's an egg waiting there to be fertilized. They actually have to be stimulated to ovulate, so mating assists with that stimulation. The males have a barbed penis that allows them to kind of scrape the walls of the female. It sounds horrid, but it's what's needed to stimulate ovulation. So they do that consistently for a couple days. Then the female would have ovulated, and then they're still continuing to mate. So in that week, a little bit less, they should fall pregnant. Steve, you'd like to know if lions get hip problems as they get older. It may be likely. Sometimes I see them looking a little like a German shepherd with hip dysplasia. But that's just, to me, what it looked like. But I have not read of them getting hip problems. Also remember that male lions, a lot of the time, are not dying from old age. Like we said, they have a tough life. They are often involved in really tough combat, and they get injured a lot. And that's more likely a case of them, the more likely case when it comes to them dying, as opposed to, old age with hip problems. There have been lions that lived into their 20s, generally those in captivity. But in captivity, there are...
You go ahead, but I'll scratch around 2 minutes.
Those in captivity don't have to be exposed to competition, and mostly the brutal, violent competition that will generally kill beautiful male lions like this guy.
So what we just can't see the pups at the moment. They're just over the lip of that ridge of sand over there. But they are definitely out. We've only seen 4, so we've confirmed 4. But it could be that number 5 is still down the burrow there somewhere. But for now, we've only seen 4 briefly. But we're just going to be patient here. I know they're just out of sight at the moment. We're obviously not going to go closer to try see them. We'd rather wait for them to come out in their own time. And soon enough, they'll be out on top of that little mound of sand and following the little alpha around there. So we must just be patient. Yes, they are adorable. My goodness. Meerkats generally. I'm quite interested to see when they actually start moving the burrow system, or not moving the burrow system, but moving from this burrow system to another burrow system. And that could actually happen any day, potentially. And there's different reasons for that. You probably find it's like a parasite load build-up, or it could be that the foraging within a particular area starts decreasing, or the returns on foraging start decreasing, and also threat from predation. One of our other meerkat groups, the macalas, remember I mentioned Chandra and I got an African wildcat down at those burrows the other day. It wasn't during the drive, it was 15 minutes after the drive, but a presence like that of a wildcat or something, or a caracal or whatever, actively spending time around a burrow system to try catch meerkats, that could trigger them to shift completely as well. The cop has just asked how many pups can be in a burrow. So this group had 5. Well, let's assume she's got 5. They can have 7, 8 pups occasionally. But I've seen groups with 1 pup. And again, it's difficult to say. But this 5 is about an average. 4 to 5 is about an average for them. But there's a huge difference in saying, well, how many pups are down there, as opposed to what's the likelihood of them all reaching, or whatever percentage would reach adulthood. If they're hitting a 50% success rate on youngsters getting to adulthood, then they'd be doing well. So that's why I say I don't want to build up any false hope. So it's great that that she had 5 pups, potentially down to 4, in, let's say, a month later. And so let's see what happens going forward, eh? But I think there's still good food out here. They'll obviously be working harder for it. But the fact that they do share food with these pups, because these pups are completely unable to forage for themselves. They're starting to learn already. So every now and again, maybe we'll be lucky enough to see it while they're still at the burrows here. You'll actually get some of the pups starting to try dig. So they've got the motions right, but I don't think at this point they've actually got a clue what they're supposed to be looking for. And that's going to take quite a while before they actually get the knack of finding their own food and that. So for now, they are completely dependent on these adults for survival. And not just the alpha female. I mean, I'm talking about the entire group, because it's not just about feeding, it's about vigilance against predations. Yes, Nancy's big sister says, sorry, what was the question? Something about the burrow? I didn't get that. My bad. Oh, okay, I got you. So the question is, if a pup dies in the burrow, what will happen to it? Good question, and I really don't have an answer for you on that. Yeah, I'm assuming it would just probably get filled up with sand, or they just would even maybe move burrows. Like I say, this burrow system over here comprises about 20 individual burrow holes, some of which are linked. So you may find if there's something dead down there, because remember, it doesn't have to be a meerkat pup. It could be an old monitor lizard that goes down there and dies. Dish. It could be a mouse. It could be anything. But I think if there's something that's died down a burrow and it's not fresh, they'll probably just change burrows. I can't see them just spending time down a burrow like that, because there's the other side of it, is that anything that's dead down a burrow could potentially bring in scavengers or other predators that the meerkats would really want to avoid. Just wish I could get close enough, and I'm not going to go close to try just to get that sound, but I wish you could hear these soft, squeaky little moaning sounds that they're making the whole time. It is just simply adorable. I don't like trying to imitate animal sounds, especially in when I'm in such close proximity to them like this, because it's just, you don't want to do anything that could alter their behavior in any way. And that's the key thing with this habituation, is that we are just impartial observers. We just hear, and that extends as far as the fact is, if we even found that other pup, let's say we walking along, we find that pup, we would just leave it exactly where it is. We would not interfere in any way. Nature needs to take its course. That's what they're designed for. That's what creates these robust systems, and we need to respect that. And the same goes for interfering. So trying to imitate meerkats while you're sitting at meerkats is probably not a great idea, in my opinion. And also, our presence like this, it's so low-key. It's a couple of hours a day. And because we keep our distance, our meerkat habituators have actually seen predation on meerkats while they're sitting at burrow systems like this with meerkats. They've seen raptors, birds of prey, catch meerkats. They've seen African wildcats catch meerkats, and meerkats chasing African wildcats, and until the wildcat actually drops the pup, and they get the pup back safely to the group. So the predators don't always have it their own way. One of the most macabre, gruesome sightings that our meerkat habituators, Veronique, has seen was the meerkat chase or catch an African wildcat kitten, and they absolutely shredded. They killed that wildcat kitten. So these meerkats, don't be beguiled into thinking how wonderful and sweet and cute and innocent these little guys are. They have a mean survival side to them that has enabled them to persist in these African savannas for millions of years. And they will do what needs to be done in order to survive for themselves. And I never saw that, but so apparently they found this little African wildcat kitten and they absolutely took it apart. So on that happy note, nature can be harsh, but it's pretty cool if you think about it. So they're having a good time now in terms of lack of reptilian predators like monitor lizards, snakes, these kind of things. This whole Rikki-Tikki-Tavi thing from the Jungle Book, or Rudyard Kipling's writing. Yes, they'll go after snakes and they'll certainly kill smaller snakes. But normally with these larger things, African rock pythons that we do get, or Natal pythons, some people call them, or I think more correctly, now stands correction. Puff adders, which is a kind of viper, these things will predate on meerkats, especially on pups. But those larger snakes, or large individuals of those, it's seldom that these meerkats will actually kill them, but they will mob them. They will actually physically try to bite the snake on the tail, obviously, and do their best to avoid getting bitten at the same time. But this time of the year now, with these cold temperatures, they really don't have too much to worry about in terms of attack from or the threat of predation from the reptilian front. But birds of prey, ooh la la, they will snaffle a meerkat if they get half a chance. And I think I need to try and find over the coming weeks, try and find out where these goshawks are going to start nesting. Love made a comment there, that is a sweet something. Sorry, I didn't get that. But I'm sure whatever you're saying is very sweet. I mean, if it had anything to do with meerkats, it would be sweet. That is a sweet space, I think. Face, oh face. Yes, my hearing is dismal, to say the least. My word, it is a sweet face. Geez, I need hearing aids. Oh, it's warming up beautifully now. Beautifully. Today, I think we're going to hit 23 degrees out here, which is a gorgeous day. Anushka has just asked, will the pups stay with this group for life? Okay, so that's a really interesting question in terms of their social ecology of these species. So there's a very good chance that there's a number that will stay, but what happens is, as these groups start getting larger, and we're looking at it in our particular area of the Kalahari. Remember the Kalahari, when we talk about the Kalahari, this is a massive expanse, and Tswalu is just a portion of that. Excuse me, it extends right up through Botswana, areas in Namibia, when we're talking about the Kalahari South, these semi-arid areas. In our area of the Kalahari, which is not by any means representative of the entire area, but in our area, these meerkat groups, you're looking at about 6, 7, 8 as the kind of average group size. Some groups do get larger. We've had 22, 23 individuals. I do know areas relatively close by to us where they're getting groups of over 40 individuals. But what you start finding, the moment the groups get to those kind of sizes, they start splitting up. And that is really a function of the habitat. So you can get these breakaway males, occasionally the females, you'll get breakaway of these females as well. And they can actually go off and found their own colonies. Normally they will try join up with another existing group. Those of you who have been with us, remember the horses, that little group of 4. You can get, let's say these pups grow up, 2 of them or 1 of them or 3 of them could actually move off and potentially even try join up with another group like that. That would normally be the males, but in larger groups your females do break away as well. They can also create completely new colonies. If you had a couple of dispersal males from one group meeting up with dispersal females from another group and creating a colony like that as well. So there's different ways, but that's a good question, Anushka, and there's a very strong likelihood that one or two of these youngsters, if they were all to survive to adulthood, would probably break away from the group at some point.
Well, you got the meerkats, everybody. How awesome is that? So we ended up... Oh, we've got a bird of prey. We ended up losing Heart, and we couldn't figure out where she went to, or where the leopard that she was trying to find for us got to either. Oh, that looks like a young... Oh, that's a juvenile goshawk, I think. There we go. Juvenile dark chanting. How awesome. I've never seen one in that plumage. It's got a very different coloured eye at the moment. It almost got a snake eagle eye. It's got a very upright posture. You see it's got a barring of the chest. It's hard to see in the light, but the orange legs, how wonderful. That is the call of the goshawk. He's looking for mum. But we moved over to Simbambili in anticipation of picking up on the lion tracks again, and we have indeed found the lion tracks again, which is very cool. Yes, that's my first immature. And they do have a yellow eye. That's very cool. I'm going to play it very softly for you in my microphone, and you can hear. That was my recording off my phone. So sometimes knowing the calls of a bird can make it very easy for you to identify them. How awesome. It is honestly the first immature dark chanting I've seen. Megan, what a cool looking bird you say. It is indeed. These guys are always generally found perched. Very common, favouring very well developed tall sort of woodland. And they hunt from a perch. They'll sit there and wait for something to move before going after it. Small mammals, birds, even go for birds the size of a guinea fowl. So it's a very common habit of them. There he flies. Ah, wonderful. And off he goes. Okay, so we're coming past Simbambili Dam just a moment ago. We found lion tracks coming in from, we didn't find them at the gate, but they looped around towards Cindy's Dam, and they came, I figured, let's just check Simbambili. They probably came along the fence, and they've been coming along this fire break. They went to the dam, and now they're heading this way into this thicket over here. So we're going to keep trying, see if they come out into the open area of Simbambili. Otherwise, we might find them on a buffalo.
So these little meerkats are putting on a lovely show for us now. I'm hoping that while we are sitting here, we've got some birds in the background. We're not going to look at them, don't worry, because they literally, when I say they're in the background, they far out to the left-hand side, way out of sight. But I just see them flitting out, the ant-eating chats. And I'm hoping that while we are actually sitting watching the meerkats with these pups out, that these ant-eating chats will actually come into the burrows. Because as these little meerkats start doing some burrow maintenance, if they do it this morning, and I hope they will, then these ant-eating chats will be attracted by the digging to come see what little tidbits they can actually grab there. Come on, little birds, you can do it. Okay, there's actually one, Jean, I don't know if you're able to get that bird sitting on the top to the right there of you. Okay, there's an ant-eating chat there. Zandre loves birds, so I really want to give him an opportunity of at least seeing a bird this morning. And he has confirmed it is definitely an ant-eating chat. I thought it might be a mountain wheat here with my birding skills, but Chandra is saying, no, it's anteating chat. You can see the glint in its eye and the shape of its beak. So those little birds are the ones that actually nest inside burrows. So they actually tunnel. In fact, we're going to show you one of those this afternoon, the nest of one of these birds. They're not nesting at this time, but I will look for a burrow and I'll actually try to show you a nest, because that'll be quite fun. And I've kept promising that and I keep forgetting about it. So those little birds are going to be coming down, popping down to where these meerkats are now. So Anna Maria has just asked, will the meerkats defend their pups if they're attacked? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I used that example earlier that's been seen on Tswalu with a adult African wildcat. Now, to give you some idea of the size of the animal, those of you who have domestic cats, that's what you're looking at. In fact, we can chat about the sort of lineage of African wildcats and domestic cats, that kind of thing, but that's for another thing. But that's the kind of size you're looking at, a nice big tabby cat. These African wildcats are in that size range, so they're well placed to catch meerkats, and they do on a regular basis, in fact. But it's actually been seen on Tswalu, an African wildcat waiting at a burrow, running in, snatching a pup, grabbing a pup, and then running off with it. And then the entire meerkat colony, or the family, chased after this African wildcat like crazy. The cat actually got such a fright that it dropped the pup. And the pup actually made it back to the group. They will for sure defend their pup. So I think I'm wondering which direction they're going to foraging. They seem to be moving out towards the southwest. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually continue out in that direction. And I'm still seeing, it's 4 pups that I'm seeing, eh? Yeah, still 4. So it seems that there is definitely one MIA. But we'll see. There's another one here that my guess is we're going to get 3 out of 5 surviving till 6 months. That's going to be my gut feel just from what I'm seeing here now. And it's still way too early for me to even take a guess like it, but I'll take a guess anyway. And it just shows how fast the fortunes of a colony can change. That first group that we were following, the horses, there were 6 adults there, if you remember that, or the 2 adults and 4 sub-adults, all living happily. And then they had pups, and we were spending time there. And one day, old Mrs. Badger and her pup rock up, and it was absolute havoc. So, we must never forget that however cute and adorable these little things are, they are still completely in the hands of the wild. These are wild animals, and things happen in the wild, like honey badgers. One bird I haven't seen around for a couple of weeks is martial eagle. Now, martial eagle just elicits crazy alarm responses from these guys. If they see a martial eagle, even at a long distance, they go absolutely nuts onto high alert, because martial is one of their big predators.
We've just got this zebra crossing the road, or really just on the road, actually, not really crossing it. And it's the last one of the group that we saw. And so, if you look at the way that it's scanning down the road, it's quite attentive. Just look at how those ears are moving around. So as I'm talking, it's actually focused back on me, making sure that we're not posing a threat, and then just checking its surroundings. And if we look in between its legs, we've got a nice view of its back legs over there. There seems to be quite a narrow black vertical stripe. And so this seems to be a male. We have to make sure. It does look like there's that narrow vertical stripe. See, there we go. So directly, it's basically getting hidden by the tail. And that means that it's a male. And so he's probably in charge of the group of zebras and essentially just keeping an eye out for them. And so that's why I think it's a little bit more alert than the others. The others are off to the left and they're feeding down on the ground. And so they don't seem to be nearly as alert as he is. The others have disappeared off to the left where Owen is trying to show. You might see one or two. There we go. There's another one. Also got its head up for now and just listening. And if you look at the vegetation around us, I mean, it's quite dense. And we tend to, or at least I do, I picture these zebras in these big open grasslands where they can see it all the way around them. And now they've moved into a slightly denser area. And I wonder if at this time of year where all of the leaves have started to fall off the trees and we got that extra 20-25 meters of visibility into the bushes, it might just feel that they feel a lot more comfortable moving into slightly denser areas like this now. And so maybe that's why they've come in. I mean, the grass is really nice and tall in this area, so that's something that they'll be targeting. But because it's dense, I'm sure they'll still be very, very alert and conscious as to what's around them. And so they might be slightly more nervous than usual. And that's why they'll be responding to sounds with a lot more alertness like we're witnessing now. You know, with the winter time, like I mentioned, a lot of these trees are losing their leaves. But also what's happening is the water's running out. And so there's fewer and fewer water sources that they can go to. And so it might mean they have to move from an area where they're suited to through an area like this to have a drink. And they might be on their way either towards a waterhole now or potentially making their way back towards an area where they feel a little bit more comfortable, where it's nice and open. Okay, we're going to send you across to a leopard quickly. We'll keep driving and try to find you something.
Thank you, everyone. We found a cat, and she's not 100% relaxed. The lion tracks have not come out of this block, and we were doing a loop around, and Craig's got eagle eyes when it comes to leopards, spotted a leopard, and it looks like a youngish female. I don't think it's us that's called upset. I think there are lions in this block, and that's got a little bit edgy. A little bit edgy. Hopefully we're going to get another view for you now. If I don't get caught on the tree. Do you see her, Craigie? Tell me if you can frame her behind the stump. Okay, so she's calming down a bit. She's a very pretty little female. I looked at her face, did not look like Saseka to me. I've never seen Kara before. Kara is Shadulu's cub. It is a little bit overgrown in here though. Let's see if we can get you through. There we go. She's going to run straight across the front of us now. I'm going to be able to get through here. Straight in over here. Come on, my darling, where are you? There she is in there. You're going to get her there? Just to prove we got a leopard for you, everybody. There she is. Now the lion tracks came straight in over here. We're about to pop out into that open area again. I think that's what's gotten her a little bit jumpy. Sorry, we can't get you better view at the moment. That's a leopard, everybody. She's looking around. Just when we left you before, we found enormous amount of hyena tracks. And it's very possible that the lions have actually made a kill somewhere in this block. We don't have them coming out. Okay, she's moving on a bit. She's going towards the open, which is going to be good. I'm going to move up a little bit for you. And hopefully we get a shot so that you wonderful viewers out there can give me another ID today. One more moment. And we're going to get one shot of her so that we can get an ID. Give us one more minute. She ran the other way. Okay, well, we're going to try and find her. Try and get her on camera for you. She's not being very accommodating today, but that's okay, everyone. She is a wild animal.
Well, we're not going to have any problems with these rhinos disappearing from us, I don't think. They are looking very, very sleepy. It's been a cold morning here in South Africa. And as you can see, these rhinos have found a perfect little spot where they can soak up this morning sunlight. You can imagine how having a dark body like that helps to absorb the sun. Oh, it must be so nice. I'm actually a bit jealous at the moment. That one on the left is like, saw his buddy lie down, and then he's still deciding whether or not he wants to lie down. So far, he's just sitting like a dog, just with his back feet down and his front feet still up. That's crazy. This is quite an interesting little group that we've got here. It looks like 3 young male rhinos. Now males, especially, well, older or more like in the prime of their life, males like that would be definitely by themselves. They would have set up a territory. But these 3 are still young. They're still, oh, there's another one lying down. Look at that. Leaning against that tree even.
I was expecting him to turn around in a circle like a dog.
Yeah. That would have been funny. Okay, let's see if this other one lies down as well. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, so 3 young males that are, you know, probably only been by themselves or away from their mother, should I say, for about a year or maybe 2 years max. They're not big enough or strong enough to fight off other males and hold a territory yet. And I think they just feel a bit safer having a few of them together like this. Look at that formation they're lying in as well. They're almost covering all their bases. They've one rhino pointing in each direction, making sure that there's no predators coming to sneak up on them or anything like that. Hi, Moondust. No, it doesn't. There have been loads of studies. You know, people have been doing it for many, many, many years now. And there's been lots of studies done about it. And obviously with us here at Pinda, it was something quite important to us because you don't want to change their behavior or change their social, anything like that. You don't want to change anything about them. So yeah, it was a big decision to make, but no, there's been no indication that it has any effects on their social structure. We had quite a good idea coming out to these grasslands today. We had quite a good feeling that we had found some rhinos. And I'm glad we have now. It's just amazing how docile they are, if that's the right word, at this time of the year when it's cold in the mornings. Look at the side of some of these rhinos. You can see there's like all these long scratches all the way down their sides. And you can imagine for an animal this size to be walking through these areas, although there is a lot of grass, there are a lot of trees as well. And in South Africa, a lot of these trees have got thorns on. And those scratches down their sides are from these thorn trees, from walking a bit close to them and scratching all the way down their sides. But with such thick skin that these rhinos have, they don't even feel it. Chris, even us as the guides here, we actually don't get told that kind of information. Obviously, as part of protecting, oh, there you go, third one's going down. As part of protecting them, they don't release the numbers of rhinos on these reserves. Look at that, all three of them lying down now. I think if you had to drive past here now and just have a glance down there, you'd probably just think it's a few rocks. Don't know if you could hear that noise in the background, but that was a zebra making that almost barking sound. Procedure, it's very tough. You can't at the moment, like they're lying now. You literally just have to wait until they're standing up and you can see between their legs. That's the only way to tell. So when they were standing up earlier, I managed to have a look because I was quite interested in what group this was, what the makeup of this group was. Because they're definitely all a bit smaller than a fully adult rhino. So I was quite interested to see what it was, and yeah, so it was only excuse me, it was only when they stood up that I was able to see that they were all males. With it being a nice cold day today, definitely for the next half an hour or even an hour until the sun really warms this area up, I think these rhinos are going to stay where they are, just resting and sleeping. But as it warms up, I think they're going to start standing up and start feeding, grazing around. But I think for us, we are going to carry on with our game drive.
Everybody, we've managed to find this cat again. She's relaxing for us and we're trying to figure out who she is, but looking at the spot pattern, it looks like 4 spots on the left-hand side. You can't see it very clearly. Craig's actually got a photo of Shadulu's cub, Kara, from last time he was here, and it looks like a similar pattern on the left-hand side. How awesome. She's got another vehicle joining, so we'll see how she reacts. I'm pretty sure lions are in the area and that's her reaction. Vernon, I've got her here about 30 meters from me at my 10 o'clock. She's flat in the grass at my 10 o'clock in the shade there.
Okay, copy. Can I come in behind you?
Okay, so I know it's not easy for all of you to see, but that is a leopard, everybody. That is a leopard. How exciting. Now she kept moving away from us. It was quite thick bush though, so we did have to move a few branches as possible. If she hasn't been seen in a while, if it is Shadulu's cub, still quite young, born in December, I believe, of the year before last, and hasn't maybe been tracked by too many people in the last little while. So, you know, they tend to lose a little bit of habituation. But then at the same time, I'm pretty sure lions have come into this area, and I haven't seen them pop out yet. So maybe we might be lucky to find those 3-4 Unkuhuma lionesses as well, somewhere in this area. How exciting. I'm just going to see if I can reposition slightly so the vehicle wants to have a look. Just watch how she behaves. I think she'll be okay now. You okay, Craigie? Just go to this gap over here. How's that? Can't see her, eh? Just behind the bush. Just reposition slightly. Tell me when. It's not the best visuals, everybody, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Where's she gone? There she is. Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Now, how would you see that, everybody? Just goes to show you the experience Craig's got sitting on the back spotting cats. Now you can see she's relaxing a bit. I'm pretty sure something got her up. I mean, we didn't check the entire block, so it's possible that lions have crossed out a little bit further to our right-hand side now, because we were on our way around to complete the loop. But with the hyena activity, lions in the area, suddenly this big noisy vehicle, a young leopard, they can be a little bit sort of, what's the word, needing to find cover and just moving away to a more safe place. We are truly blessed. This is almost certainly for me a leopard I have not seen before. Megan, Craig, I'm going to go back a touch so you can get that face. Megan, that's quite the glare, isn't it? How's that, Craigie? We want to get the spot pattern, everybody. Come on, there we go. Let's get the spot pattern of this beautiful leopard. Come on, my ID kit specialists out there. Tell me who it is, if you can. James Richard, are you watching, sir? Please, we need an ID. Yes, that looks like her, hey, Craigie? That left pattern looks similar. James Richard reckons it might be Cara. How exciting, James Richard. I had that feeling because it's a young female within Shadulu's territory on Simbimbili in an area that you'd expect her to be. So she is a relaxed leopard, Cara. She's been seen by cars since the day she was born. But it's possible, because there's not that much guiding pressure out at the moment, that they're not being tracked every day. So she's been avoiding seeing cars for some time. And so suddenly there's Eagle Eyes Craig spotting her, and we went off into the bush to try follow. But you can see how she surely has relaxed from when we first found her.
So 2 of the group have already gone out foraging, but what was really interesting just now, about 3-4 minutes ago, they gave this sharp alarm call, and then the four that were remaining at the burrow with the pups are like all bolted right down to the edge of the burrow and then went underground, and they're just starting to appear again now. So we have no idea what they were actually alarming at, but we've touched on it briefly before, just how incredibly acute their eyesight really is. And there's one climbing up the bush. Andre, have you got it? Inside this bush here. Sorry, it's really bad. There's one climbing up this bush. Oh, this is amazing. Watch this, watch this, watch this. So they actually climb up like that. Normally to get a better view of to look out for predators. Huh? Leopard. Where's a leopard? A quick link to a leopard. Quick link to a leopard. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so now we got a meerkat climbing a tree.
She's on the move, everybody. Meerkats in the tree. I didn't know they climbed trees. Okay, so now she's moving off quickly again. Almost certain. She's not worried about us. Something else is on the brain currently. Now, if it is Cara, that'll make this number 20. Well, I suppose it doesn't count as Juma, does it? Incredible, though, how many leopards we can encounter out here. And I'm sorry I have to be moving now. While we try catch up with her, let's send you back over to the west.
Sorry about that glitch earlier, that's my hearing playing up again. But look at this meerkat climbing up this tree here. This is fantastic. Well, not a tree, it's a bush. This very, very flimsy little bush. It is right above the meerkat burrows. And they do this so they can actually get a better vantage point to look out for danger. And remember I mentioned that they were giving an alarm call earlier? And we can't even see what they were looking at, but there is clearly something in the vicinity around here that's drawn their attention and that they trying to keep tabs on. Now, it could be a bird of prey like a goshawk that is half a kilometer away, just out of sight of us, who knows? But something definitely drew their attention. Now, the fact that this one's actually climbed all the way to the top of this bush. And some of you have asked on previous drives, will meerkats climb trees? Well, there's the example. So they won't normally go up a large tree right to the very top, but bushes like this, regularly. They're not particularly graceful. You've been watching that leopard up and down a tree with one of our colleagues, but certainly nothing nearly as graceful as a leopard in a tree. But still, and just the height advantage that they get from doing this is massive. You know, with their eyesight being so good, you know, if they get it above the level of the grass and that, suddenly it's a totally new ball game for them. We do have a herd of a springbuck that's approaching from the right now. There you go. And that would have drawn their attention as well, but I mean, they'd recognize that there's no threat from springbuck. There you go, you got them nicely there. And it's also this a really good example of just how relaxed animals become with our presence on the ground here. So we are, Jeandre and I, we're sitting out here in the open at these burrows, and these springbuck also very unconcerned with the fact that we're here. And that's important, you know, so we don't even want to impact on any kind of predation event. And I'm not saying I want it to happen, I'm just saying, you know, if anyone's wondering, well, will our presence at the meerkats prevent predation? I think it may in some small way, but normally the animals that are around you would also get used to our presence, including things like raptors and wildcats and that as well. So yes, that meerkat in the tree is just the coolest of cool meerkats. But watch how he battles when he comes down. That would be like me climbing a tree, just better. In terms of gracefulness, you'll get like leopard, meerkat, Dylan. Yes, now the ones below are like wondering, hey, what are you doing up there? What can you see? It's like, I can see my home from here. Is that America I can see? Oh no, wait, that's the sand dune. Yes, that is gorgeous. Oh, I'm so pleased we've seen this. Because normally you get them doing this when they're actually out foraging. And just with having to manhandle our equipment around, when I say we, I mean the royal we. It's genre manhandling all the equipment around. It becomes very difficult to actually follow them when they're out foraging. And that's when you'll normally get them doing sentry duty by climbing up trees like this. So I'm really pleased that this little one took it upon itself to actually go up this bush right in front of us here at the burrows. Oh man, this is adorable. And you know, they don't have protractile claws, so their claws are out the entire time. The claws on the front feet are really long, 2.5 centimeters. The claws on the back feet are much, much shorter because they don't need them for digging, whereas the claws on the front feet are used for digging. So whereas a leopard has got protractile claws, which enables it to like grip onto a tree properly and go up these like vertical trunks, even carrying large prey items, these guys are not nearly as adept as, or as well adapted for climbing up and down trees as true cats are. So he's watching those springbuck every now and again. Oh, this is a fantastic sighting, sure. Brian has asked, are there any obvious signs to determine the meerkat's sex? Absolutely. You can just look for all the working parts underneath and you'll see very, very, very clearly. The challenge there is on the pups when they're so tiny, then you won't see them. But then also, depending what distance you're sitting away from the meerkats and what they're doing. So my binocular is actually sitting on the other side of the, in fact, on the other side of the bush to where the meerkat is sitting in the tree. So I'm not going to walk around there and cause him to climb out the tree to have a look. But yeah, if you've got a pair of binoculars from here, you'll say very quickly. So yes, I'm saying here, it may be a she. But that is a male. And you get used to the animals as well. You can look at like chunky features. Yeah, they become quite chunky, like gendre sometimes, and then you can see that's definitely a male. The chunky monkey. Well, I'm so chuffed we saw that. That's lovely behavior to watch. Javiet has asked, what about a ground predator? Could they catch a meerkat up a tree like that? Yeah, for sure. A thing like, we had a beautiful example, or one of our colleagues was chatting about leopards catching, will leopards catch monkeys in trees? And a colleague correctly said, yeah, of course they will, they've seen it, I've seen it. And a thing like a caracal or an African wildcat, if you had a meerkat sitting up a tree like that, they are totally fair game. Totally, a caracal would whip up that bush in about half a second if it needed to catch it. These meerkats are super alert. They're moving out, they're coming back, moving out, coming back. There's something going on here that's niggling them. And I've scanned, like I said, my binocular is actually lying on the other side of that bush. Crazy enough, and they never normally leave my side. But there's definitely something going on here that's given them at least cause for concern. They're not alarm calling at the moment, so they're not panicked about anything, but there's definitely something that's been going on here that's drawn their attention, that they are aware of, which probably also elicited the fact that behavior of the one climbing up that bush. So it's interesting to see that they're actually taking these little ones out foraging every single day now. So the learning curve is going to be very steep and very, very fast for these little guys. And of course, their growth rate. They're going to be growing at an incredible rate now.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Alright, so we actually didn't go anywhere because, as we said that, these rhinos actually got up and started moving around a little bit. So we decided to stay and see what happens here. One of them seems to have drifted off to the right a little bit, but the other two are still sticking pretty close together. But I think they've all realized, right, it's warming up now, maybe they're getting a bit hungry, and it's time to start moving. One of them was eating a few minutes ago, but he seems to have stopped and just standing there now. Maybe still trying to wake up a little bit. It is Sunday morning here, so I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that trying to wake up feeling. Sally, that's a very interesting question. What are the closest relatives to a rhino? They don't really have any very close relatives. There's nothing else in the same family as these rhinos. But maybe something like a hippo, I suppose. Relatively similar, although these rhinos have got 3 toes where a hippo has got 4. So there are obviously a lot of differences. But yeah, so there's nothing in the same family, nothing even too closely related to them. Oh, there's actually a big herd of zebra and wildebeest up on the hillside. See up there. Have a look here. Big herd of zebra and wildebeest. Sugar, but it probably indirectly does help with injuries when they're fighting, but it's not why we do it. But yeah, I'm sure it definitely will help. Will help when they're fighting to maybe make the injuries slightly less. But they're still a really huge and really strong animal, and could still do a bit of damage to each other. But I guess with the horn not being razor sharp, it might help to have a few less deaths from fighting. Karen, it's around about the 2 years old mark where we'll first do a dehorning, and then normally every 1.5 to 2 years after that as well, when it starts growing back quite a lot, because I'm sure you know that it does grow back. So yeah, it's about every 1.5 to 2 years after that it'll get trimmed again. What an amazing scene. So it seems like this little group of 3 is split up. 2 of them have gone off to the left, and this one that's on the screen now is the one that went off to the right. The striped horse, even a rhino with these like short little legs and weighing about, I mean, a young male like this must weigh in the region of about 1.5 tons. And even with all of that, they can still run at about 40 kilometers an hour, which is pretty fast. There's no way I would be outrunning him, that's for sure. He's just sneaking off behind the bushes there. Well, as I said a bit earlier, these rhinos are going to start getting up and moving off and grazing, and I think that's exactly what's happened now. I think what we're going to do is carry on with our drive.
Well, how wonderful is it to see rhinos? Fantastic. We've managed to catch up with our female leopard, who feels like she's invisible now. She's moved away a bit further from where we first had her. I think maybe she's now feeling a bit more comfortable with the fact that the lion presence or smell isn't too close. Lying up in the long grass where she feels her camouflage is impeccable, and as you can see, it is. And Werner from Arethusa got in on the other side when we saw where she went to, and he called us in, and it took us about 30 seconds to a minute to see her there. So we do believe it is Cara. Werner had a look as well, and he reckons he's one of the Arethusa guides, so they've spent a lot more time with her. She was named Cara by one of the Arethusa guides, Ryan, who left to move back to Johannesburg. Normally it's leopards are named by guides in the local area, quite often related to where they were found first. So who gets to name them generally? Very blessed indeed. So our first lion tracks took us onto the trail of a leopard, which then took us to a hyena, which took us back onto the trail of the leopard. Then we lost the hyena, and then we came to find where those lions had possibly gotten to, because the pride seems to have split. Some of the ladies are tired of all the cubs hogging the meals, and the avoca males being nearby as well. They thought they'd give them all a slip. Leave the boys and kids at home for the weekend. Sounds like a plan. And we found the tracks, and those tracks led us to a leopard, which I'm very excited about. I think it's only Jamie and TRISHALA as presenters that have seen Cara before. I might be mistaken. Somebody else might have seen her. But she is well established in Zimbabwe. Alana, how camouflaged. It's incredible, isn't it, everybody? See if you can spot her. You knew where she was. If you didn't know where she was. So we were edging in here slowly, trying to see where Werner was pointing me towards, and see, try again. Now you've seen my face. Are you ready? Let's have a look. Tell me when you can spot her. Where is she? Where? There she is. Incredible, isn't it, everybody? And when Craig spotted her, he said, he just went leopard. I love that sound from the cam-ops. When they go leopard, I don't really care where it is or who it is. That sound from a cam-ops always comes through. Senzo used to do it as well, but with his accent it would be leopard. I'd always get very excited. Craig went leopard, my foot hit the brake. I said, where? I put my left hand down to try and see her. And he said, there, she's looking right at you. And it took me, how long did it take me, Craig? 20 seconds to see her, maybe? Craig is a bit higher up than me, and I am doing lots more while we're driving, you see. But the benefit of having good eyes on the back is very important. Very important. As James Hendry said a little while ago, it's remarkable possibly how many of these cats we do drive past. Hello, Bean. You going for that old adage, a leopard changing its spots? I don't think it's possible. I think that old adage is to mean or to describe something that's almost impossible. A leopard does not change its spots. If anything, it grows into the spots. It's born with a body of spots, and slowly those spots push out from each other, and then you get gaps. Start getting that golden color in between, or the bronze. But they can't change the spots. They're actually, it's the way the fur grows out of the skin. I've been sent pictures from some of the viewers who've shown photos of tigers and leopards that have been through some veterinary treatment and have had to have parts of their skin shaved. And obviously it's still a little bit of hair follicle there, but you can actually see how the fur grows out of the skin with that exact type of spot pattern or shape or stripe in the form of tigers. But incredible how it's evolved like that, isn't it? To have grown out of the skin in a certain way. And it probably just started with a couple. And over time, a couple became more than a couple, and then it increased further still, till eventually the leopard was a completely spotted animal. Because it's all about survival. And the more successful you are, the more chances you have of passing on those successful traits. And so those successful traits perpetuate in the population. And it starts becoming the dominant genetic trait. Eventually, over time, it seems to become quite normal. These things do happen over a long period of time, everybody. And there's evidence of where lions and leopards possibly once were connected. When you look at baby lions or young lionesses with their spots, it goes to show that lions were probably leopards or a similar variation. A forest-dwelling, dense vegetation-dwelling small cat that needed spots for camouflage. And then as the savannas opened, or the forests opened due to changes in climate and more dry conditions, and forests diminishing into open, more wooded areas with grass, we saw this increase in herbivore numbers and size. Buffalo and wildebeest got much bigger, and so the spotted cat came out of the forest and started changing its spots into more of a tawny color so as to mimic or to match the vegetation. So I suppose lions are leopards that change their spots.
So the two adults that had actually moved off foraging came back just after all that weird little bit of alarming and nervousness was going on over there. So, and we've scanned the area, still can't figure out what it was they were actually alarming at. And there was no particular concentration in any one direction that we could see. So I guess that was something that they picked up far away. But it just shows how alert they are. I mean, these little animals are sharp as razors. And it's so cute. So these pups are starting to try and dig. It's like, yeah, they're learning, they're getting there. Slowly but surely. But they're going to grow so fast now. Because now they're just getting like this really high quality food. You know, lots of protein. Pretty much all protein, in fact. And I mentioned before on that, you know, they are classed as carnivores. But I've actually seen them eating flowers. Like, as in not like biting or nibbling on them, actually physically eating the entire flower at this age. So just after our first rains, if we get our first rains, get a good rainfall event, let's say 20 mils or more, you get these carpets of yellow flowers called devil's thorn, tribulus, that cover these areas, and as far as you can see, it's just like fields of yellow. And these flowers, very, very, very delicate little things, but these meerkat pups will gobble those up as well. And again, coming back to what we spoke about yesterday, so whatever you read in books, that's just a point on a graph of research or work or observations that have been made in a particular area at a particular point in time. It doesn't necessarily hold true for what a species will be doing in other areas. So there's going to be a lot of begging going on with these little guys as well. So when they start moving like this now as well, so if one of the adults is digging up something or finds a prey item, these little ones are going to pop over, and normally they'll just relinquish that prey item to the youngsters. They blend in so well into this environment. And I was just kind of making a mental comparison. Those of you who were with us the other day, we got those two meerkats sitting up on the little mound in another area with all that dense grass around them. Completely different environment to where these meerkats are. These meerkats got a much more open area. Obviously their visibility is much better in an area like this. But also, the other side of that is, well, predators can see them a lot more easily. So I wonder if there's ever been any kind of work done on, statistic done on what's the likelihood of meerkats in an open area like this being predated on, as opposed to meerkats in a more dense area. Because in a more dense area, although a predator can't find you very easily, it's also more difficult for you to see a predator. So it probably balances out, I guess, in the long run. So they're spending a lot of time at the burrows this morning. Very interesting. So Laura just asked, are meerkats and squirrels related? No, they are not related. Completely different animals. These little guys are actually part of the mongoose group. So these are true mongoose. We don't call them a meerkat mongoose. It's just a meerkat, or a suricate is the other name, suricate. That's actually the correct name. Squirrels are completely different. And talking about feeding behavior and the differences, so there's another nice example. So squirrels, again, are traditionally seen as herbivores. So they're eating nuts, and they'll dig out, like our squirrels here, which are ground squirrels, Cape ground squirrels. They'll be digging out grass roots, seeds, that kind of stuff. But I've seen, and in fact I've got lovely photographs, well, I don't know about how lovely they are, but I've got photographs of meerkats actually, squirrels actually eating lizards. Old dry lizards. So they found this lizard, they pulled it out of one of their burrows, but they were actually sitting there eating this lizard. So there's an example of saying, well, yeah, meerkats are carnivores, but they will also go for other things as well, and vice versa with squirrels. So don't believe everything you read, and definitely don't believe everything I say. Take it all with a pinch of salt and do your homework, kids. Jean-Andre's nodding. He's probably the only true thing I've said over the past 8 weeks. No, I'm just kidding. It's a magic day out here, and I'm so glad you're all able to join us. Yo. Another tough day in Africa. Butterfly says, thank you for a magical drive. I really appreciate that. And for me, and I know for Jean-Andre as well, and all of our colleagues, and the whole industry, I mean, it means a huge amount that you're all following us and joining us on these drives. It's very special that we can share this with you, and I say that from the depths of my heart. I mean, it's a real privilege for us to be able to share this all with you. And wherever you may be in the world, whatever you are doing, please stay safe, take care. We look forward to joining you again this afternoon, and have an awesome day further. Cheerio.